Hey everybody, welcome back. So this is a pretty special day because this is the day where they will be installing the solar, and I don't know if they're going to be able to get to the batteries and get those installed also. I know that their goal is probably to go ahead and like get everything all installed in one day, but it's an awfully big install, so we'll have to see how that goes. As you can see, I've kind of cleared away my racks here, the storage racks and all that, so that way they can have space. And as you can see this thing right here, that is the cover for one of the massive batteries. I think it's something like 10,000 milliwatt hours, or not milliwatt, megawatt? No, it can't be megawatts. I don't know. It's a huge, huge battery. I'll have to ask them because now I'm completely spacing it on exactly how much storage those things hold, but it's a hell of a lot. You can see they got, I believe that all the panels are in here, the Mission Solar panels. And we got guys up there on that super steep roof up there knocking things out. They're getting all the mounts, all the holes for the mounts all prepped up. And then over here we got guys that are trenching, and that's where all the power is going to be going underneath the driveway there, and it's going to go all the way to the front of the house and tap in through the wall there to where those batteries are. And you kind of come over here and get some of this action. I think they're kind of doing exactly what I did with a pressure washer, where you got to pretty much get underneath the driveway there using a pressure washer. They got a pressure washer that's really like almost identical to the one that I have. Mine's not a Troy, but it's got the same Honda engine. That's why it looks the same. Same Honda engine on their pressure washer too, so good choice. And these guys are trenching away, and then they're setting up to, here's one of our guys that we spoke with a little while ago about getting this whole system installed. And they're setting up to get a box built over here. I think that's where all the power is going to come off the line and into there. I guess that's the distribution.
That's going to be the...
They got a DJI. Yeah, DJI Mini just like I do. I'm going to be busting out with my drone today too.
Yeah.
Cool.
So we're setting up the photovoltaic structure, which is going to house most of the components for the solar. I mean, the reason that we're doing it over here and not on the house is due to the fact that for utility reasons, the CPS, your utility provider, is not going to authorize or pass any type of inspection if it's not right directly next to your main service panel and a utility meter.
Got it.
So that's the main reason for this project that we have to do, and that, of course, is going to include the trenching underneath. We're going to try to do the water trenching at first.
Right, yeah, I saw the pressure washer.
This is a new apparatus that we built specifically just for
Got
your
it, yeah. That's cool. Yeah, they got the end that's just open up there, so that way the pressure washer is going to shoot right through. That's like pretty similar to what I did to get the pipe underneath my sidewalk in the back there. Mm-hmm. Pretty much the same concept. I had a pipe also that I used, but it was just a PVC pipe, not a galvanized pipe like that, so that'll last. Mine won't.
Yeah, but we made it specifically for your project.
All right.
So this is the lengths that we go to make sure everything looks nice and functions properly. As far as the battery, it looks like we don't have the batteries out today, but we are going to have them very soon.
And then refresh my memory, how much storage capacity does each battery have?
It's a 10 kilowatt battery.
10 kilowatt. Got it. Because I was like completely fumbling, and I was like, I think it was 10 milliamp, or I was like...
It's actually 10.1, but with both of those batteries and the recharging from the solar, you should be looking at over a week with your critical components that are wired to those batteries.
Over
a
what?
week.
Of continuous power? Okay, so I was thinking it was only going to be 24 hours, but we're going to have be able to run all the critical stuff in our home for like a week, like you just said. So that is fantastic. So, I mean, a week's worth of cloudy weather in Texas does, at least in this area, that's pretty rare.
That's super rare.
Yeah.
We get over 300 days of continuous sun, or I wouldn't say continuous, but
right.
Of sunny days in this Texas area. So.
And about how quickly will those panels charge up those batteries? If they're like all the way down to 0.
So your system is definitely, it's a larger size system. So for a 2 battery system, we're looking at getting around a 10 kilowatt system. So you're obviously a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
Exactly, you are looking at. But yeah, definitely with the amount of panels that you do have, it's going to charge them way quicker than.
So we're talking like a couple of days or a day or
About a day.
About 1 day. 1 day. That's that's pretty good, you know. I have a week's worth of power, and then the system's fully charged within about a day or so, give or take. So that's pretty dang good. That is a very, very fast recharge rate.
So with 2 batteries, you usually need a 9 kilowatt system to 10 kilowatts, and you have a 19 kilowatt system. So
Yeah, we're doing pretty good.
yeah, you're definitely gonna
Very,
be in the
very
clear.
Very well. So
I mean,
this is exciting.
It's a safe estimate saying a week.
Right.
At this point.
Got
I mean,
it.
You're looking
I
at a
like
little bit
it.
longer than that.
Yeah, for whatever reason, I was thinking it was only going to be like 24 hours. For
If there's no sun at all.
Yeah.
I mean, completely no sun. You got a cloudy day, and then plus you're running your AC and just living life as normal, not in emergency mode. Yeah, you're gonna be looking at about 24 hours or less.
Okay, so we have everything running. Then we're 24 hours, scaling it back, and just only having critical loads like the fridge, freezers, you know, things of that nature.
Yeah.
We're looking at about a week's worth of power that we can just
Yeah.
keep
about a
up.
week's worth.
That's awesome. That is really awesome.
And you're definitely going to be notified with your application on your phone. The same monitoring system that we use to see your panels and your battery. You're going to get alerted and say it's going to tell you, hey, you're running off a battery. At that point, you have the decision to either, cut back on your energy consumption due to the fact that, of course, you're going to prep for the future, or
Right.
just know that it might be like a regular brownout or
Sure.
some type of
A little bit of a
small
transient.
minor blackout. But
Cool. All right. Well, I'm gonna let these guys go ahead and continue on with their installation adventure, and we're thinking like maybe about 2 days is gonna be the full install.
I think so. As far as the solar, I think the racking is going to be done today.
Mhm.
I think the panels and the battery is going to be in the next 1 to 2 days.
Got it. Okay. So maximum like 3 days when we get all this stuff put together. But again, this is like a really huge installation, so I completely understand that it's gonna be a multi-day operation here.
It's relatively large, and also the incline of the roof is a little.
Yeah, the roof is a bit pitched a little steeply, so I'm not surprised that that's gonna slow things down a little bit. All right, so we'll check back in later to see like what kind of progress that we got here, because I'm excited. I've been looking at getting solar installed on this property. Well, at any property that I've had. Like, I've always wanted to have solar, and I like the whole idea of being able to just be completely off grid, and this is going to be able to facilitate that for me. So this is great. All right, guys, we'll talk again in a little bit. See ya. All right, so as promised, here is the update to the end of day 1 of the actual installation. And these guys really, they got so much stuff done. It's pretty amazing. So as you can see right here, it's got the cover off right now, but these are our battery banks. And each one of these banks has 3 batteries in it for a total of 6 of these Enphase batteries. And these are the covers right here. After they get done wiring everything up tomorrow, those covers will be over the top of these guys. You can see they got the conduit ready to go right here. That's through our wall. And we can take a look outside here to see exactly where that conduit is coming out of. Just so that way you kind of get an idea of how things are going. But there's the exit right there, is where the conduit comes out. And it's coming down here and going down inside the trench right there. And then they also added this panel right here, which will be service for, I believe that this is, I think it's coming off of the roof and into here. I think part of it goes into here as well. I'm not really sure. Like, I haven't asked them about like the specifics, so maybe tomorrow I'll ask them exactly what's going on here, because I think that there's got to be some power that's coming in from the pole to here. I think it might just be coming from the batteries, because I think the batteries are going to come out. And they're going to come out of that conduit, and they're going to go down and into the power automatic power transfer switch. And I think it comes back into here and up into this. And then there's going to be some wires come off the roof I'll get the specifics tomorrow, just so that way I'm not not speaking without actually knowing what the heck it is that I'm talking about. Because honestly, right now, I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm just kind of taking a guess at what I think they were doing. I think that they might have mentioned in passing, but there's just so many things that are going on. It's kind of difficult for me to recall all this stuff, because this is my first foray into like a massive amount of solar. So you can see up on the roof there, all the racks are up there and awaiting solar panels, which are going to get installed tomorrow. All the micro inverters are also installed, and then there is the set of racks that I believe I've already shown you earlier that they were installing. But those racks on the front of the house, those are also now all installed, so you can see they're all up there. And I believe that they have already ran the copper to bind all of them together. I think, yeah, I see all the copper wires that are up there that are binding all of the rack units together. And I think it all goes in that one conduit that's up over that ridge there and onto the front side. So all these panels are all tied together, so that way they're all bound and don't have to worry about short circuits or any of that other happy stuff, or unhappy stuff, I guess. And you got all the pipe here, all the conduit that they're going to be laying tomorrow in the trench that they dug. So they trenched underneath the sidewalk there. They were able to go ahead and finally get past that stupid rock, and they trenched underneath the driveway here as well. We got some more conduit right there. I'll be going in. And then here I think we have this is a new meter, I want to say. I don't think that we had a digital meter in here before, but I think that they decided to go ahead and I don't know what the heck. Did I just tap it and it did some weird thing? I don't know if it's resetting. I don't know what the heck it's doing. Yeah, I have no idea. But I think that CPS put a new meter in here. And here is our automatic transfer switch. And this is where another meter is going to go. That'll let us know how much power we're generating. So we'll be selling that back to the energy company. We're going to have pretty much like next to no bill whatsoever. Like our electricity bill is going to be nothing with the amount of solar we're going to be generating. And this is our cutoff switch right here. And then I believe this is the manual override. So that way, if I feel like I want to go off grid completely, I can just flip this switch. And I believe that'll engage the automatic power transfer switch, and it'll just flip everything over to our solar and batteries. So that's where we're at the end of day one. It was an awful lot of work. They had the full crew out here. One of the guys, I'm not really sure what role Aldolfo plays. He's like, I think maybe a sales rep on top of something else, I believe. Again, don't quote me on that. I know Aldolfo is going to be watching this video when I post it, so I apologize, because you guys have a massive crew, right? I can't keep up with that. Now, on top of that, almost everybody's name starts with an A, including mine, you know? So it's like, got Adam, then there was Adolfo, then there was Alfredo, and then I want to say there was an Alfonso, I think, also, like all these A names, right? So, and I think there was, I think it was Alfonso, and I'm hoping I'm getting his name correct, who said that there was actually 3 other people on the crew whose name also starts with A. So I was like, everybody's A. It's just the A crew. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Tomorrow, they're saying that they can pretty much, they're gonna wrap up everything. I think it was Alfredo who just called me on the phone and said that, yeah, they should have everything done tomorrow. But that doesn't mean that the system is actually going to get powered on yet, because apparently what happens after they get it all done, all wired up and ready, is that they have CPS Energy has to come back out. They'll do an inspection. I think, I'm not really sure how aggressive the inspection is, but I know that they're going to have to inspect at least what's coming off the line and what the automatic power transfer switch is. They probably have to do a full inspection on like everything. So then once they sign off, I think there might be like one of the other guys was saying like the city of the city that I'm in would also have to come out and do an inspection. And then I think after both those inspections pass, we're good to go. And they said it usually takes about a week from the date that they're complete. So tomorrow should be the completion date. And then after that, it's just a matter of getting the inspections. And then once the inspections are done,
we flip the switch and it all goes online.
Hey everybody, welcome back. So as promised, I said I was going to go ahead and give an update when they were all said and done, and they're done. They're gone. There's like nobody here right now, except, well, for me and my wife and our cats and our chickens. But you get the point. All the workers are done and gone. They just finished up just a little while ago. And as you can see, we have just these two monstrous batteries. We got the photovoltaic aggregation panel that feeds all the, I think all the solar panels are fed into the back of this thing and goes up into the batteries to charge those guys up. And we can go ahead and take a look outside so that way you can see everything that they've done out here. So right now the trench is still open because we have to have the inspection. So the energy company is going to come by, and also the city. They'll be by just to make sure that you know, it was dug to the correct depth and all that stuff there where they're doing the inspection. And then you can also see the service panel right here. And I'm fairly certain I'll have to talk. I'll have a follow-up meeting with Aldofo, which is my primary contact with these guys. But I'm fairly certain that what winds up happening is that the panels that are up on the roof, and you can see them up there, there's a connection from these panels here to the panels that are on the other side of the roof. Then you can see that from those panels that are up here, they all go into that one box there, and that takes both sets of panels and puts them in that one conduit that comes down through our roof, and it comes down to this breakout box right here that has well, actually it's a switch box right here, so that way do not remove, add, or relocate any circuits from this panel. Yeah, so this is the circuit breaker panel for all the panels that are up on the roof, the solar panels that are up there. So what winds up happening is that all that with all the microinverters, so this is all high voltage that comes down, and it goes over to the emergency transfer switch that's over there by the pole. And then the emergency transfer switch also feeds the lines back into the house to the other smaller conduit that you see coming up there, and that goes in, and that's what's feeding the batteries there. And if you come over here, you'll see all the work that they did to wrap up the installation for the automatic transfer switch and a few of the other components that we have here. So you can see here's the automatic transfer switch. So when the power goes out, this will automatically flip everything over for us. They still have to install the meter here. That's one of the steps that they have to take in order for us to be able to actually get you know, our electricity bill reduced to just about nothing, if nothing at all. Like I don't think we're going to have an electricity bill. I think it's going to be really, really rare that we have an electricity bill with how much, you know, we're generating off this solar installation. And then also, this is the emergency shut-off switch right here. So that way, if the electric company needs to service the lines in the area, that switch gets flipped off. So that way, we're not back feeding into the line, which could, you know, seriously shock anybody who's working on a line. If the lines are supposed to be de-energized, and they've de-energized it from the electric company, but this would be supplying those lines. So that's bad news for them. And then this right here is the switch that I asked them to put in. This is a switch that'll allow me to override and just cut us off from the grid completely. So that way, if I flip that switch up, we won't have anything coming in from the overhead line, and instead, the automatic transfer switch will just route everything from the solar panels and the batteries to the inside of the house. So this panel right here is tied in to our main panel and meter here. So when solar is operational and they've got everything activated at that point in time, we're just going to be getting nothing but solar energy. And at night we'll be working off of our batteries. So like, we're just going to be consuming next to no electricity at that point. And there is the open hole down here as well, because as mentioned, you know, they have to get the inspection. But that's it in a nutshell. You know, it took them 2 days to knock all this out, and there was just a minor hiccup with trying to get through when they were getting that trench trying to go underneath that driveway. They hit a big rock that was underneath there, but they managed to break their way through that. But that was really the only thing that kind of slowed them down. Outside of that, everything was pretty smooth from what I saw. I mean, they got the panels up today, and like it was super quick. I don't even think it took them 2 hours to get those panels installed. These guys are just like they're really, really fast. So now it's just a waiting game, just waiting to get inspections done, and then once those inspections are done, we're going to be flipping up that switch, and we'll be virtually off grid. We won't be getting any power from the lines. I think I want to say that at night, I believe that we actually will still be taking power off the line, but the way that it works is I think that during the day when we're not consuming any power, we're selling everything back to the company, they give us that credit, so that way at nighttime when we are taking when we are on grid, consuming electricity from the grid, everything that we generate during the day will go towards us being able to use the system at night without having to pay anything. So just fantastic. And, worst case scenario, when things go bad and we get a power outage or whatever, we just automatically switch over to batteries. So we just don't lose power ever, which is just amazing. Just really super amazing. So that's going to do it for right now. That was pretty much the install, and now it's just inspections. And after the inspections and we get everything flipped on, I might do a video at that point. Although there's not really going to be anything, I don't know. For me, it's going to be exciting because we'll be, working off of solar at that point in time. But visually, there won't really be any noticeable difference. So I don't know if it'd be worth like making a video to show us being off the grid or using solar. I don't think there's really anything there. But what I will do is I'll post another video in a few months after we've had this system running for a little bit, just to see how well does the system perform? Did it meet our expectations? Did it exceed our expectations? Were there some issues that we ran into? How did this company, by the way, it's Solar Edge Pros is the company that we went with. So if you're in the San Antonio area, that might be a company that you might want to go for, because these guys are totally professional. They knocked this out really super quickly. I've got an incredible premium system that was installed. So that said, I would wait a couple of months, to hear back on how things went, because if there are problems or whatever, that's really when these companies have an opportunity to show how do they perform under a load, I guess, under pressure, or when things don't go correctly. Because customer service, it's one thing to sell a system and then to install it. It's another thing after the fact, after the money's already gone and exchanged hands. How do they follow up when there are issues? Are they going to be responsive? Are they timely with any repairs that are necessary? Are they going to be able to send out qualified people to assist if there's actually some hands-on repairs that need to be made? Don't know. Those are all questions that are up in the air. But I will say this, so far they've had nothing but, from what I can tell, I believe that when I looked at their Google reviews page, it was like 5.0, like across the board, 5 stars. Everybody's just giving them nothing but 5 stars. And from my experience so far, that would be my rating for them. And I will probably be writing a review on Google also. Just they were really, really great doing the install and support, and super friendly and working with me. They're pretty excited about actually having this video being made too, because they just really want to be able to sell. Obviously, as a company, they're interested in selling their product, and their product is installing solar and helping people out to get their solar systems designed and installed. So they have a vested interest in making sure that whenever there's potentially high profile, I don't know, sometimes I have videos that are hit or miss. Some videos get tens of thousands of views. Other videos, I get a couple of thousand views. I don't know. You guys are finicky. My audience is completely finicky. I don't know. They seem to be obsessed with some of the music things that I put out there, and then there'll be other things too, like lawn and garden stuff. I never would have thought that people would have been that interested in watching lawn and garden videos, but man, you guys really love that stuff. So I'll be delivering more of that for sure. Okay, so as promised, I said that we were going to go ahead and do just kind of a bit of a guided tour on the system here. And we have the guys back out from Solar Edge Pros. And I thought that it would probably be a good opportunity for us to go ahead and get some like firsthand knowledge on exactly how this system has been put together. And we have Alfredo from Solar Edge Pros here with us.
How you doing?
And if you want to go ahead and hold this, it's attached to me, so just
Sure, no worries.
Don't go too far. So I just wanted to kind of get an overview of like exactly how this system works, right? Because obviously we got the solar panels on the roof, and then we have the conduit that's coming down here. So can you kind of explain exactly like how is this all wired together? I'm going to take a wild guess that we got the high voltage because we got the micro inverters here that are coming off the roof down into the circuit breaker panel, and then I'm guessing it goes from here over to the automatic transfer switch, and then from the transfer switch there's a smaller conduit coming back here that feeds into the batteries that are in the garage, right?
Yeah, so you want to answer this?
No, go ahead.
You're the Enphase.
We also have the guy
Enphase
from
tech here.
Enphase. The Enphase people are the ones that made the solar switch that we have over there, the automatic transfer switch, as well as the monstrously huge batteries that we have in our garage. So,
So you wanted to ask again? Go ahead.
Yeah.
Ask me again what you want to know about the panels up on the roof.
so we got the panels on the roof. I'm just curious, like how these are all wired together. So I know that we got the one battery that's over here that's connected to these over here
The
through
array.
all the micro inverters, and then the array goes to there's like this gray box. I'm going to kind of tilt this around so you guys can see. So there's the gray box that's up there. Is that just kind of the
that's called that's a combiner box or a J box or a pass-through box. That's just to combine circuits
Okay.
or that's a pull. Sometimes we call those a pull box. So you're just doing your coupling there. So you've got terms from over that array. You've got the conductors coming through the pipe. They go into this array, and then the last bit you got to do a sub connection there. So what you're actually doing, that's just kind of like wire nuts or Polaris caps inside of that box there, and then you're coming down. Now this is your what do you got here, Alfred? Is it just a AC disconnect for the roof panels?
Yes.
Yeah, the roof array. So one thing that's different about Enphase compared to most solar systems is that the power on the roof is DC, and it's coming in, even the conductors coming down, the wires going through that pipe in the trench over there, and that would all be DC energy. Well, with Enphase, because it's microinverter, and there's a couple
Right.
others, AP Systems, there's a few other competitors that we have, not very many though. And I say that just matter of factly, there's not a whole lot of AC microinverter manufacturers. So it is being converted into AC energy right on the back of the solar panel.
Okay.
So the advantage of that is, if there's a little bit of shading or one solar panel quits working or a cloudy day, this array is not producing as much as that array, they will still do the max that each one of those individual solar panels is capable of doing because they each have their own microinverter. Now with
Right.
a string inverter, you got 11 to 17 modules strung together in series, and if there's a slight cloud cover or one module has a shade, all of the modules have that shade.
right?
Are affected.
Yeah.
at that
So
same level.
your output just drops dramatically when there's shade or
Yeah.
anything that's obstructing any one of those panels. But since every single one of these panels is getting the DC output going through the microinverter, and the microinverter just boosts it all the way up to 120. Is that what?
240.
240.
So it's 240
Every
volts.
one of the. Oh, okay. That's okay. That's interesting. I did not know that. For whatever reason, I was just assuming it would be at 120 for whatever reason. But
Well, you would think that because of home and all that. But
yeah. Okay. So then after it comes down to the circuit breaker panel here, and it goes in there, it goes over to the automatic transfer switch. And what kind of magic is happening over there in the automatic transfer switch?
What's up about that?
So it's two things are happening, right? So it's going back over here. So we have the meter over here. We have the smart switch, right? So you're either consuming the solar, it's going in to the smart switch and back to the battery, or going back to the grid. So if your batteries are full, you're sending it back to the grid.
Got it.
So you see this other connection right here. So those are going to the batteries
Got it. Okay.
because the batteries are right here behind the wall.
And so with a lot of traditional systems that I've seen, what they wind up doing is kind of like what you're talking about, where they have like all the panels are all wired up in series. It's a DC voltage that comes off. Then they have to go through and like, for supplying home usage, they have to use an inverter to be able to go from that DC voltage to something that's usable with the AC stuff. But since all these microinverters are all outputting 240 from that transfer switch, is that where it'll break it out in between 240 to 120? It doesn't supply the house with 240, right? It's just
You're
dropping down to 120
we're still putting 240 on your main service panel.
Okay.
Just like you had your main service panel before.
Okay.
And then you've got a sub-branch panel, probably in your garage, your laundry room, or your bedroom closet. They're all different.
Yeah.
Now, that's not truly a 120 panel, but David Jr. actually, I sometimes call that the 120 panel. There can still be 240 on it, but what's happening is instead of tapping both phases and then going to ground, which we would get 240, we just tap one of those two phases to ground, and that gives you half that amount, and that's where your half voltage is. So that covers smaller appliances like coffee maker, refrigerator, all your plug-ins, lighting circuits and all that, fart fans in the bathroom, that kind of thing. All that stuff is a 120 circuit there.
Right.
So that's your branch circuit. Now your larger loads always tap off your main service panel outside. So your air conditioning, any water well pumps, sometimes water heaters. Sometimes water heaters on a 120, they can vary. Do you have electric or gas water heater here?
It's electric.
Yeah, so your electric water heater is probably a 240. Usually they're 240. So what's probably going to happen in order to go into backup mode with your system? Well, you'd say he is whole home backup or
He's
partial?
whole home backup.
So you're going whole. So you're going whole home backup. So we'll literally just take your whole entire main service panel, and then even that sub panel that's in the garage, like I said, or the back. We're going to just run everything when the power fails. So
Right.
if the power goes out, UCPS here. So
Yes, it is
CPS.
CPS, yep.
So if CPS fails, that automatic transfer switch goes over to off grid, and now your power is only going to get the things that are on this backup loads portion of the cabinet over there. There's the right side, the left side of the cabinet. As you're looking at, I'm trying to do this for the camera. As you're looking at it, it's the right side of the cabinet will be, that's your main service tap connection, and that's where the smart switch is to say, I do want to be grid or I don't want to be grid. And when we're not grid, we're only going to be whatever is on this side of the cabinet, which is our backup loads and our backup sources of energy. So we've got the batteries that have charged up from the solar. We got the solar power panels themselves. You might have a generator in there as well. You could have a wind, large turbine wind fan. You might have a hydro if you have a river and a dam. A lot of people actually put hydro as well. All that can get integrated, but the smart switch says, I'm now going to take that, and that's called your microgrid. So when you switch from on-grid over to off-grid with that gray switch, what you have done is you formed, and we like to say formed, you have formed your own microgrid. So you've gone from buying power from the man to being the man.
Right.
And that's a really important concept, because understanding that also carries with it the responsibility of knowing, they run a giant coal plant or a steam plant, whatever, they got to have all these valves, they got to have the engineers that run it, all the different things that go on with that. You're becoming that person in that case. So a lot of people think, I just want to get some solar, and then if my power goes out, the lights will switch on. Well, it's not a plug and play appliance.
Yeah.
You've got to learn about, and I'm sure Alfredo's probably taught you a little bit about the Enlighten app and all that. You're not commissioned technically, but we'll get you there. But we're going to go through with you how to do your monitoring, how to read your battery SOC, that's your state of charge. Where do you want to set that state of charge? I don't want to go below 40. Do I want to go below 30%? Whatever you want to keep it at. And that's important, because if the power would go out, you want to make sure you've still got some in there to make sure you've got something to work with. So it's like a big old tank of gas. And at night, you're going to start using up that gas, and there's no solar to charge them back up till the morning, right? So how low do I want to go? You'll probably want to keep about 30% in that hog, in that, I keep wanting to say the hog, taint in the hog. You want to keep gas in that tank so that you've got something to work with. You start seeing that you're getting down to 40%, you might start turning off the TV, maybe only running the laptop and charging the phone at this point. Because once you get to 30%, if that's your reserve SOC, you're not going to discharge anymore past that point till the sun comes up, and then you'll start charging those batteries again. And just an important thing to learn too. When we get to the next day and the sun is coming out ready to do his business and get everything going for you, the solar panels on your rooftop are going to charge those batteries as priority first.
Right.
When they get to 100%, or they get to about 80%, it'll start sending a little bit more of the current. Plus, it's also how much consumption are you. So with Texas, it's kind of, they're all symbiotic. They work together. So as that day is getting warmer, that air conditioning is cycling a lot more too.
Absolutely.
So those batteries over there going, feed me, you charge me up. But by the same token, we're trying to get to where, but generally, and this is, it's not so much I'm not a salesman for Enphase. I'm just telling you the truth. Our batteries charge real fast, a lot faster than Tesla and all the competition. We have lithium ion phosphate. Those are all lithium ion cobalt based. Good thing about that too is if you accidentally hit yours in the garage with your truck and you break them open, you could have a torch on the front of there. Nothing is going to explode or catch on fire. That's not true with cobalt. If a Tesla car is on the side of the freeway and it's burning, move.
Right. Yeah.
Get away from it. And I'm not bad. Generally cars don't catch on fire, but the fire department, you have to learn how to fight that difference.
Sure,
It's cobalt,
right.
man. It's a
Yeah.
whole different element. But our phosphate, one of the big beauties of that is also it can cycle a lot more. So, just as a comparison, we're about 80 times more the cycle life. So just by its nature, and that's why people like Enphase and our products, and it's also the really good thing about our products. So, but it to me, one of the biggest draws is that it charges really, really fast. You're not going to use a whole lot of your solar. Maybe an hour to, in your case with your house, you'll probably take about 90 minutes to get them back up to charge each day on a typical good day. There's a little bit of overcast, you've got some haze. Even then, you can't really judge the cloudiness as to how much irradiant energy is hitting your solar panels.
Sure.
So it might be a cloudy day, and it's your irradiance levels could still be almost the same as if it wasn't cloudy. There's a lot of things that factor into that. Well, is it cumulus clouds? Is it just kind of a haze? Is it smoke from a fire? That truly blocks a little bit more. So it's very interesting how that, but they're extremely sensitive. You go up there with a flashlight at night, and you'll actually see, if you had your graph out, bright enough flashlight, you'll be able to see that module might start to energize just a little bit. It's normally black. You might get a little blue on it. It'll take a little while before you see it, because remember, with the reporting is about a 15-minute delay. But if you would watch it, you would literally see, oh, sure enough, David's right. There's a little bit of, and the moon on a full moon night can actually, you've got voltage from a full moon, which we have right now. Last night was a full moon. But it's not enough to create current.
Sure.
That's not irradiant photovoltaic energy. That's lunar voltaic energy, literally coming from the moon. It's just reflection from the sun. We know
Right.
so the moon it's not generating any power in and of itself. It's reflected wave energy that's just creating light. The sun, that is irradiant PV photovoltaic energy that's hitting these panels, and that's what makes the magic work.
Right.
I've had the solar system now for, I want to say like maybe a month and a half, maybe a little bit over that. I'm not really sure exactly like how many weeks I've had it, but had it for a little while now. So I thought that I would go ahead and wrap things up by kind of going over some pros and cons, and I wrote out the pros and cons just because I know I would get lost if I didn't. So let me just go ahead and go through this. Pros, we'll start off with the pros. Licensed contractors are responsible for any mistakes. So that's the beauty of what I wound up doing, was hiring the contractors instead of trying to DIY this system, which I would probably more than likely still be working on it if I had done that. And that's assuming that I didn't wind up dead, because, working with high voltage, like the ones that are coming right off the pole, you have to do some pretty serious electrical work. I would have, at the very least, I probably would have hired an electrician to wire up like the pole and all that stuff. There's no way I would have done that. That's just, for me, it's too risky. I do not have the kind of background or expertise for doing anything like that. So I just avoid anything that's high voltage. So the installers were Solar Edge pros, and they were 100% committed to making sure that everything worked. And when I get to the cons, I'll explain why I made that statement. So Enphase, and that's the company that made everything but the solar panels, is a really large company. So the great thing about going with a really large company that's been around for a while is it gives you some security, knowing that if something goes wrong with your system, like the components fail, if you need to go ahead and warranty anything, the company's going to be around for a while. So you don't really have to worry about some fly-by-night company. So it's really good, I think, in my opinion, to go with an established company that's been around for a while and that offers a really good warranty. And Enphase did send out their people to the site here at the house to assist Solar Edge pros in getting things installed, which was, I thought was really great. And because I had Solar Edge pros doing the install instead of like doing a DIY thing, they had a whole crew out here. So they were able to knock out like huge amounts of work in a pretty short amount of time. Doing a DIY install that was this huge for a single person would have been just a monstrous undertaking. I really get the feeling that I probably would have been discouraged not that far into it, because again, I don't have the expertise. I've never done anything other than I got a shed that's out in the back, and I did install solar panels on top of that, four solar panels. And that alone was, it took me a little while just to do the 4 panels. There's 56 plus microinverters, plus all the, I mean, what I had done on the back there was kind of, you know, a homeowner's version of installing solar panels. So I did not use like any really good standoffs or anything along those lines, as opposed to the professionals. And if I had ran into any hiccups along the ways, professionals know what to do to be able to get by. If they had some sort of issue with trying to put the mounts on the roof and they needed some certain parts, they would know what to get. I'd have to go and do some research. So it would have just dragged on for a long time. So that's another pro of having a crew actually doing it. Most of the components that I selected were all made in the USA. The panels, all the Enphase gear. I think that there were probably some pieces and parts here and there, just small things that were kind of inconsequential that were probably not manufactured here in the USA. But for the most part, everything that I did get was made in the USA, which to me is important. It may not be important to you, but for me it was important. And another one of the pros is that our electricity bill is insanely low now. Last month's, I think, was the first month where I got a bill after we had been commissioned. And I'm going to mention commissioned a couple of times. Commissioned is when the solar, or not the solar company, but when the solar install is complete, and then you actually have the city and the electric company, they will all come out and inspect what the installers have done. And if everything is good to go, then the energy company will go ahead and give you the green light to flip everything on. And at that point in time, you're actually, when you have an excess, you can sell it back to the energy company, which is what we're doing, which is great. And that also explains why our energy bill was so low. It was $45 for our last month's energy. And I'm here in Texas, and with all the air conditioning and stuff like that running, people around here have been complaining about like just massive electric bills that have been upwards of almost like $500 in a month. So for me to be able to get $45 is pretty significant savings. And on top of that, during that first like 2-3 week period, I was kind of messing around with my battery reserves because I do have batteries that were also installed. And I was messing around with the battery reserves trying to determine like how much reserves can I get away with still having some capacity just in case, you know, something happens with the grid going down. As I mentioned, everybody has their air conditioning cranked up right now because it's so hot outside. It's still hot right now, even though it's like mid-September. We're in mid-September, so we're like, you know, in the fall season, but it's still like 90 degrees outside every day. So everybody still has their air conditioning running, which puts a strain on the grid. And there could be the potential that the grid goes down. So I wanted to make sure I had some reserve capacity on the batteries just in case something like that happened. But we haven't really had any problems yet. So I have felt like, hey, you know what? I can go ahead and just make the minimum amount of capacity, which is 10%. So I only have a 10% reserve in my batteries right now whenever the solar is no longer active because the sun's gone down, or maybe it's a really super cloudy day and it might have to tap a little bit off the batteries to kind of make up for the lack of sun. But now that I'm at 10%, it's really going to be interesting to see what my bill will be this month, because every single day now I've been net exporting. I do take from the grid at night, you know, when the batteries are gone and I've used up 90% of my batteries, then it spills over to, you know, utilizing the grid. But since during the day I've been exporting so much electricity, it makes up for anything that I'm using at night. I want to say that my bill, if it's not going to be $0, it's going to be dang close to zero. There might be some like maintenance fees or something that they always have that's included, no matter, even if you're not using any of the electricity at all. There could just be some maintenance fee that's included. So there might be a little bit, but I think it'll be even less than $45. So that also gives me, you know, going from the electric bill being low, gives me, I mentioned how I had the batteries, gives me peace of mind in case a grid does go down, that I will have batteries in reserve. I might not be able to, like, so for example, if overnight the grid goes down and I've already used up all the capacity in my batteries, the next day I can go ahead and adjust my batteries so that way I reserve 100% if the grid's still down. Because as soon as that sun comes up, we're going to be getting power right off the grid or off my solar panels, because we have the microinverters that are installed. So it's directly right into the house. It doesn't go through any kind of like big inverter. So there's very negligible loss of power because of those microinverters. So we'll be able to go ahead and get our batteries charged during the day as well as power the house. We'd obviously have to scale back on a lot of the things that we would typically use if the grid was offline, because at that point in time, we can't just sit there and like have the AC cranking. When I say cranking, for us, I usually keep it like around 81. So I do like it kind of like warmish in the house. I'm not really somebody who needs to have the AC down at like 65 or something crazy. So we don't really use the AC like all the time. It's kind of goes on and off. But that being said, we would probably have to go ahead and scale back even further on that. We would have to watch like using the oven and the microwave, turn off a lot of lights and things like that. Really just scale back so that way we can make sure that throughout the night we will be able to use our battery reserves. Otherwise, we'd be in the same boat as everybody else in a grid down situation where we wouldn't have any power. So we still have to kind of keep that in mind. So that's the pros. Cons, it was incredibly expensive. Now on that one, I do blame myself. For one, I did go with Made in USA products, and I'm sure you guys have all experienced that, where anything that's made in USA is typically going to be more expensive than cheap Chinesium garbage that you get from overseas, whether it's like from China or Taiwan, things of that nature. You can get some stuff that's okay, and actually some stuff that's really good. But at that point in time, why not just go with Made in USA? Because you're probably going to be paying just about as much money for Made in USA stuff as you would for really good overseas products. And then also, one of the things I do kind of kick myself, I didn't shop around, like at all. Like I just found one solar company that had really good ratings, and I went with them. And I did not get bids from any other companies. And that was a mistake. I should have done that, because I did pay a lot of money for this system. And I get the sneaking suspicion that I probably could have saved a lot of money if I had shopped around. And maybe Solar Edge Pros would have worked with me if I had come up with, hey, this company is using the same components. Where they're saying, hey, we can get you Enphase and these panels, and we can do it for this amount instead of like what I was charged by Solar Edge Pros. So that was my fault. Also, Enphase kind of used us as guinea pigs. They gave us some equipment that was very, very new, cutting edge stuff, but they also didn't do a good job of QAing it. So that kind of played into some of the issues that I had experienced. And that's the next point that I had, was that the install and the commission took a lot longer due to numerous problems that we had with the Enphase equipment. And I don't blame Solar Edge Pros. Solar Edge Pros did a great job installing it. It was Enphase that kind of dropped the ball on a few different things. And one was, it took a few of their auto transfer switches to get one that worked properly. I think we had to go through three different auto transfer switches until we got one that actually worked right. One, there was a mechanical failure on. There was another one that was, I don't know if it was software or for electrical failure. I don't remember. But the third one, third time's a charm, I guess. We got one finally that worked. But, we had to wait on getting the new components to show up, and Solar Edge Pros had to schedule some time to come back out, and every time that they came out, we wound up having another problem with one of the transfer switches. And then also Enphase didn't tell Solar Edge Pros that there was an additional comms line that needed to be ran between the house to the outside pole where the auto transfer switch is. And Enphase had already buried the trench with all the other lines. So all the lines that come off the pole and go to the transfer switch, and then back from the batteries out to the transfer switch. So there's a bunch of lines that had to get buried under the ground. And Solar Edge Pros installed all that stuff. And then once they were done and they tested it and made sure that there was continuity and everything looked good, they buried the trench. So, I mean, maybe you can kind of blame Solar Edge Pros a little bit on that one. They should have potentially waited until the system was up and fully operational before they buried everything, because then they would have been able to go ahead and use that trench. Because after they had buried it, they would have had to dig up another trench just for a small line that needed to be ran for communications. And I don't know if it was a communications channel or if it was a low voltage line or maybe both. It was something along those lines. So they had to wind up going and trenching along the fence line to put another line from the auto transfer switch through the attic and down to the batteries. And I don't know if it went outside to the gateways and some of the other components that are outside, mounted outside on the wall on the house outside. Not really sure on that one, but it did require extra effort from Solar Edge Pros to be able to install everything properly. Because what would happen was that when they were testing things out and simulated a grid down event by shutting off the power on the pole, the auto transfer switch would go crazy. It was just going back and forth, turning off and on and off and on. They had to cut the power real quick because it was like making everything in the house go off and on and off, and it was crazy. So there was problems with that. And then the other thing that I think is a con was that I had like weeks later, after everything was commissioned and everything seemed to be working okay, I noticed that one day one of the gateways was offline and said it had an error. So I contacted Enphase, because at this point in time, SolarEdge Pros had been out so many times that Enphase said, you know what, we're not going to have SolarEdge Pros deal with this anymore. We're going to deal with it. Enphase said, we will deal with it. We will send somebody out if you have any other additional problems, because it's not fair to SolarEdge Pros, because we did mess up and we want to make things right, but we want to have our guys do it and not put SolarEdge Pros on the hook. So that's what they did. So when I ran into this issue with the gateway, I didn't call SolarEdge Pros. I just contacted Enphase, because they have a built-in chat app on their app. So they have a little chat window that you can bring, speak with one of their representatives or tech support guys. And when I talked to one of the guys, I think initially they thought that I was one of the installers that was calling saying, hey, got a problem with the gateway. And they said, oh, you just need to reboot it. And I said, well, how do I reboot it? And they said, well, you just got to go out and they'll be on the panel and you'll see that there's 2 circuit breakers. Turn them off for 30 seconds, then turn them back on. I'm like, okay, well, are you talking about the breakers that are outside on the pole, or are you talking about the breakers that are on the house? And then he asked me, well, wait, are you an installer or are you the homeowner? I said, I'm the homeowner. And he said, well, hold on, you have to get SolarEdge Pros out there to take care of this. We had a thunderstorm that was coming in, and I'm like, I just spent all this money to get this system installed. I don't want to have to wait for somebody to come out here and fix this if all I have to do is reboot something. Why don't you just tell me what to do? It's like, no, we need to have somebody come out. And I told him, I said, well, SolarEdge Pros is not going to come out here, because the agreement was that you guys are going to take care of any faulty components or any other maintenance on your gear, because SolarEdge Pros already went above and beyond. They're not going to come out here again. This is something that you guys have to do. And he said, well, I'll have to give you a list of a couple of local installers that will come out to take care of it then. And I'm like, no, you just told me all I have to do is reboot it. Can you just tell me where these things are so that I can do it myself? I don't have time to wait, because I knew it was going to take at least a day or more to get somebody out here to fix this issue. And the guy's telling me all I got to do is just reboot a couple of the gateways. And I'm like, I know how to turn a circuit breaker on and off, guy. Just tell me how to do it. And it felt like I had to pull teeth in order for them to help me out on this. And after spending as much money as I did on their products and being a guinea pig on top of it, I felt like, come on, why are you giving me a poor customer experience? You should be kind of going out of your way to make sure that things are running smoothly, especially with something that trivial. So that was kind of annoying, to say the least. Yeah, so I guess that's just some closing thoughts, because that was all the cons that I had written down. But overall, I'm really happy with the system now that everything's working. But with the experiences that I've had and some of the issues, I'm kind of skeptical on like how well the system's going to stand up long term. And then on top of that, I'm a little concerned about the support that I'm going to get long term, because like I said, I felt like I was kind of having to pull some teeth to get the guy, the chat, the technical support guy through the chat app, just to tell me where to locate the proper circuits to turn off and on. That was really annoying. And I got some wind going up, and my fire pit's right here, and it's blowing ashes right in my face. That's great. And then, as I mentioned earlier, if I had to do it all over again, I think I would shop around, because I highly suspect that I could probably save a pretty decent amount of money if I had gone and shopped around instead of just going with the first company that had really good ratings. That said, SolarEdge Pros really did a great job, and I thank them for what they did, and they really did go out of their way to make sure that things were working properly in spite of all the issues they were having with the Enphase gear. So would I recommend SolarEdge Pros? I think I would recommend them as long as you shop around and if they are willing to kind of work with you on a price, because I think I really paid too much. I think I paid too much. We have one of my neighbors who's really interested. We had actually a couple of neighbors who were interested in getting solar installed, and they were seeing, the people that were working on my system, and they had asked me about it. And one of the guys had said that they have actually done some shopping around, and they had gotten I believe it was Enphase gear. And if it wasn't Enphase, it was something that was comparable. So their quote was significantly lower than what I paid. So I feel kind of silly for paying as much as I did, because I probably could have gotten just as good a quality system, made in USA, maybe, for a lower price. So that's what I would say. As far as Enphase goes, I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence with Enphase. I like the equipment when it starts working. The equipment does work real well at this point in time. But the support that I received, I thought was a little lacking. And on top of that, they should not be using customers as guinea pigs at all. They need to have their QA team take a look at their approach to what they're doing to test out their systems, because I really felt that that was not acceptable. You do not release a product like that into the wild without testing it up, down, and sideways, and making sure that it works in every single supported configuration that it's supposed to support. And I can speak from experience, because I've been doing quality assurance, and I'm a quality assurance engineer, and I've been doing this now for over 20 years. And I'm in the software industry, though, so this is a little bit different. This is a hardware industry, but I'm in the software industry. But I would never let a product go out in the state that it was in with what Enphase had done. They should have known off the bat that the way this system was designed, it wasn't going to work properly, and that there would need to be some additional steps taken. But they'd never communicated that to SolarEdge Pros. And again, going through I went through 2 of them until I got the 3rd one, which was one that actually worked. That's unacceptable. That is a really bad level of quality. And I would highly recommend that they go back and look at their charter and reevaluate where there might be some gaps. So that way they don't wind up having other customers that went through the experience that I went through. It wasn't terrible, but at the same point in time, it wasn't great either. So I think everybody has in their mind the desire to really put out quality products and make sure that customers are happy, because that's how you make a lot of sales. Okay, so that's enough from me. I hope that you guys found this video helpful, and you were able to see the experiences that I went through and saw the installation, and maybe that'll make your decision on whether you want to go with Enphase products, and whether, if you're in this area, around the San Antonio area, if you want to go with SolarEdge Pros, or maybe you shop around and go with another company. I will say I really like them. They were a great crew. They're very communicative. So I knew what was going on with pretty much every step of the way, which was great, and it's something that's important to me. So it might not be important to you, but if it is, they do a good job with communication. I would just shop and make sure that you get a really good deal, because again, I think that maybe I could have got a better deal. So I hope you guys have a great day, and if you like the video, go ahead and thumbs it up. If you haven't subscribed and you want to see more videos like this and some of the work around the house that I do, I also do a lot of product reviews as well. And if any of that sounds interesting, you might want to subscribe. I'd appreciate that. And have a great day, and I will see you on the next video. Take care.